Hello, everyone. This is Darwin. Just wanted to go over with you a new update to the device cloud component. This is version 1.3.0. And the device cloud component allows you to manage hardware devices as a cloud completely within GitLab functionality. This is covered in one of the previous 4 videos if you want to take a look at them. Let's dive right into this. One of the problems with the original component that I wasn't happy with was that if someone decided to grab a runner tag for a set of runners that were being managed by the component, they could simply hijack the runner by using the tag. The further complication to this is that it's pretty natural to go ahead and find a runner in GitLab and use a tag. I mean, that's how you normally would find a runner. In this case, though, we need them to use the component in order to allocate that runner so that they can run an entire pipeline on it. In the case of the hardware gateway runners, they are tagged inside of GitLab to indicate that they shouldn't be used directly. The new blue tag here is new for version 1.3.0, and the original notification there that's also in the detail is what was originally there. So if they're looking in through the UI to find a runner, then of course they would run into this information and hopefully understand that they need to search for the component and do more. If they were passed along a runner tag or they decide, you know what, I'm not going to bother with that, I don't know what that means, then this first level of capability is what is going to fix that situation. So what happens if they use a runner tag directly, like in that job definition, they're going to get a failure. And then inside of that failure, they're going to see an audit. So it's called Device Cloud Audit. And it says this runner requires it be accessed via the Device Cloud component and warns them here not to use tags directly. So this is what will happen if someone uses a tag directly without anything else. The proper way, which we've covered before, is to have a parent pipeline that has an allocation job, calls the child pipeline, and a deallocation job. Within the child pipeline, we would have this tags pointed to device selected ID, which is what the component delivers. And then that allows someone to properly use a component. So this first level is really helpful. And when they do this correctly, then now they get a successful job. And the pipeline inside says that there's an audit going on. So this helps people understand that there's more effort being applied to making sure that these runners are accessed correctly. The other thing, too, is this is using a pre-build script on the GitLab runner itself. So when you use a provisioning script that's a part of this component to provision your runners, this code gets configured. So that's level 1. That's configured automatically. There are ways to get around it. And so I wanted to try to make sure that couldn't happen in addition to blocking the scenario we just talked about, but do it where it's much more assured. So the second level is optional, and you have to turn it on. And it's called pipeline ID locking. So basically, we're going to check that the pipeline ID is the one that actually asked for the runner. When you use the script to provision the runner, you use a new switch, pipeline ID locking, and that will configure the proper code inside of the runner code to be able to check the pipeline ID. Then the only other change you need to make is when you call your child pipeline that needs to use the device cloud, it has to pass in a variable called runner locking pipeline ID. Generally, that's the parent ID. So right here, you see that the allocate job ran in the current pipeline. So then passing CI pipeline ID will give us that ID, and that's the one we need to pass. Whatever pipeline ran the allocate job is the pipeline ID that then the child jobs need to successfully run. And you can see down here at the bottom, once again, we have the actual child pipeline file, and it has a device ID selected. Then it notifies, hey, the pipeline ID locking is enabled. So the message changes slightly. The audit success message is the same. So basically, if you're doing it properly, if you're doing it incorrectly, then you're going to fail the audit specifically with pipeline ID locking is enabled. So therefore, you did not have the appropriate pipeline ID. This will obviously also block if they didn't allocate the runner at all. So if they've been able to fool the first level check, the second level check is much more robust. Another interesting aspect of how this works is, let's say you have a long-running pipeline. You have an expensive piece of hardware worth $500,000, and it takes 25 minutes to do the firmware flashing. You flash a firmware, you run a couple jobs, and then someone grabs the runner with one of these kind of jobs. One of the cool things is it's going to reject every job that is not a part of your pipeline. And when it does that, it's not really going to interrupt your pipeline. These jobs will run potentially in the middle of your pipeline, but each one will be thrown away before it can do anything to the attached hardware or on the runner. And so this effectively means that even on a given pipeline, you won't have your pipeline interrupted even by one of these jobs that's trying to kick someone else off the runner until you're done with it. So that's the new capability in the version 1.3.0 that I'm happy to say is available right away. And I hope this makes your experience of managing device clouds inside of GitLab a lot easier.